Test, test. There we go. My bad. I was saying hello to Silver, Eric, Jay, Beats from the Basement, second Eric. Oh my God. My bad with the mic. I was just didn't know what the hell I was going on there. But thank you guys for showing up and hanging out. As I was saying, I'll have to repeat everything because I'm a big bozo. This seems as if it was a little bit more of a difficult sampling challenge based off of less people submitting. So yeah, the sample was just like a bunch of wacky instruments from all over the world playing for like 7 minutes. I think I just Google or YouTube like craziest instruments or something. A little bit difficult, but thank you guys who have submitted for submitting. So we'll listen to your guys' beats. Higher chances that you'll be chosen, which is good news. Another thing that I was saying was that based off of the poll that I asked last week, it seems as though the Q&A isn't all that beneficial, the one that I'm doing every other Monday. So I was thinking of either trying to push the Q&As into like the evening time, late afternoon, so maybe like 5 hours forward from now. I don't know if more people will show up, but I think we're still going to run into that problem of, you know, everyone's around the world, everyone's in their own time zone. So maybe we'll just do more feedback sessions. I don't know. It was fun. Yeah, I'm glad that you found it fun. Those types of samples are what I find the most fun too. But I would assume that a lot of people just prefer an actual like musical sample that is a little bit easier to use. Couldn't submit this time. Will get more involved from now on. I certainly hope so, young man. The only thing I couldn't lock down was a decent baseline. Maybe Q&A could be once a month. Yeah, maybe we'll just do it less often at a better time. But as you said, I think making some adjustments will be tantamount. Other than that, though, I think that is pretty much it. I did also mention I'm in the standing desk position right now, getting my practice in, learning how to stand some more. So maybe things will be completely different this stream. Either way, let's just go ahead and start spinning. No more goofing around. Let me know if you guys are into football. I'm going to be doing my fantasy football draft in a couple weeks. Michelle's up first. If so, who are you guys hoping to get on your team? Let's jump into Michelle's beat. As always, feel free to add your own 2 cents in, what you feel is good with the beat, what can be improved. Everyone's feedback is always welcomed. So here we go. see what the chattas are saying. Jay asks, football or football? American football is what I mean. Cool intro, says Silver. The vibe is crazy. Kai, how's it going? Chops are good. Very good grabber intro. Love the bounce with the sampled keys. I think the low pass filter on the keys for the bridge section would be good, or even just some bars to add variation on some bars. The sax is nuts. Sounds real great. Sounds real nice. Great job putting this together. Drums are nice and punchy. Everything complements each other nicely. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this was such a fantastic use of the sample. Great job of just putting those pieces together and keeping it relatively simple. It wasn't an overly complex sample loop, but that really opened up the opportunities for, you know, that great bass line, that saxophone that had a lot of different notes playing with unique rhythms. Just the fact that that sample was used a little bit more simply just opened up a lot of the space and the opportunity to do that. Great job with the details as well. I love that little sound around here. That sound there. I think it's like a wah-wah guitar with reverb and delay on it. That sounded beautiful. Good job with the loop itself, how every 4 bars we have that short little switch up. All the sounds are sitting in a great place. I don't really have much to say in terms of what this beat could do to improve. One small thing I would point out is, just as a small technique, it can go a very long way to just even like drop the drums every once in a while. So the one part that sort of jumped out to me was the end of the hook going into this bridge. So I think just dropping the drums completely right before like a switch up is about to occur, it typically sort of signifies to the listener that like something different's about to happen. And I think for a lot of people that are sort of trained to sort of feel that way. And so this part right here, I would drop the drums around here, and then as you go into the bridge, you can slowly reintroduce some of the drums back and just have a little bit more of that sort of blurred transition, as opposed to just merely dropping the kick for the bridge and that's it. So I think just a little bit of stuff like that, small little details with dropping sounds, adding sounds, could improve the beat a tiny bit more. But like I said, the big stuff, the big pieces are in place with this beat. That was phenomenal. I don't really feel as though I need to point out anything that this beat did poorly, because I think Michel did a great job there. Good job on the first beat of the day. Let's spin her up again. We'll probably get through all these beats, hopefully, unless something catastrophic happens. Eric White, who I believe is in the chat. A lucky day for Eric. Let's take a listen to Eric's beat. All right, that was Eric's beat. Incomplete beat idea, but that's all right. Let's see here. Eric says, I'm a beginner. My first beat's over 30 seconds. Please go easy. No worries at all. Michelle is here. How's it going? Crowtown's here. Crowtown, I feel like we've been missing each other a lot lately, but I'm glad you're here hanging out. Jay says, liking the mood. Super dark vibes. Sounds like a boss fight is about to start. Yeah, so with this beat that Eric put together, I really like the sound design of the sample, definitely. It started off as this sort of straightforward piano initially, but then what happens to the entire sound palette is sort of shifts down into this dark sphere or dark space down here. And we have that sort of layer of the synth on top. So really cool sound design. I really like the core melodic idea. The 808's working as well. It's sitting in a good spot. It's not playing like an overly complex pattern. So I feel like the patterns are pretty good as well. I think just the one thing that undermined this beat is the drum pattern idea. So it sounds like it's a trap beat that was made in double time, but the drums were placed in single time. So you can hear we have so it should have been like half the speed, so it should have been and so I think that was like the big thing that sort of distracted in the beat. Nice ARP you got there, says Crowtown. I feel like the 808 might be a bit too much. I'm finding it hard to follow the bass or the clap or the snare. Great job, Kai, says Kai. Very cool soundscape. Good job with the sounds. Just struggling to bop my head to it. Yeah, I do think it is because the drum pattern, the sort of rhythm is double the speed, and the clap feels like, I guess Eric had to use a little bit more of a weaker clap just because we have so many claps playing so often. But if the beat was sort of structured a little bit more typically with a clap playing at half the time, could have used a little bit more of a present clap and had a little bit of a better balance. The lack of kick also was a little bit distracting. Yeah, I think just coming up with a little bit more of a typical kick and snare / clap pattern would have helped this beat feel a lot more structured and help the sort of listener understand it a lot more. Just as Jay mentioned, like it's sort of hard to bop your head to it because it's hard to get like a feel for the rhythm. So yeah, I would assume, Eric, that you made the beat in 100+ BPM. This would probably be like around 130, 140. If that is the case, put the snare or clap on the 3 and the 7. What I talk about in Better Beatmaker of putting your clap or snare on the 2 and the 4, that is only if you are in normal time, which is usually, we'll say between the range of 50 to 100 BPM. That's how you know you're in normal time. If you're above that, you're probably working in double time, and so that's when you want to make that shift. But yeah, really good idea in here. Really awesome sound design, really cool manipulation of the sound. I really like that sort of dark feel. I think just structuring the beat a little bit more correctly could have helped. But good first try there by Eric. Really encouraging to see a lot of sort of cool ideas within that beat as soon as the structuring part is in place. We're going to be cooking. We're going to be cooking. Next up, Z-Lock. Let's see what the Z-Man has for us. Here we go. right, that was Z-Lock's beat. Let me just finish writing down my thoughts. Yeah. All right, let's see what you guys are saying about that beat. Jay says is for 70 BPM ish. I make my trap at 140, so I change it. So yeah, as Jay said, like if you're making your trap at 140, you have to change the positioning of the drums to be take twice as long in the project. Soundscape was great for that beat though. So with this beat, love the bongo rolls. The switch up was insane. Similar thing to the last beat, was hard to follow the drums and overall rhythm. Interesting synth bass. Not sure what genre this is, but feels like too many ideas that are too different in the same beat. Dope idea. There might be something with sound selection, especially that kick. It might be a hard style kick. That's a great point. I was expecting chill and then got smacked in the face all of a sudden. Yeah, I feel like this beat has a lot of cool, unique ideas in it. Just like you mentioned, that sort of bongo roll, really unique. The drum pattern as well, like the pattern felt a little bit unique in that the snare was not on the 4, I believe it was pushed up. I feel as though with the way this beat's structured and because of the sound selection, just like Crowtown says, it didn't quite come together. It either felt like we were listening to like a bridge or a transition, or we were listening to the hook. It never really felt like there was a moment in time in this beat where I was like, oh, this is where I can imagine some rapping happening. And I believe Beats from the Basement says drums through me. I believe the reason why is because that huge synth bass. So like I mentioned in the chorus, whenever you're using very long sustained sounds, you're really decreasing the amount of room left in your beat for something else. And especially when you use a long sustained bass sound that has a lot of color on it, like a synth bass, you're going to have even less room. And then just like Croton mentioned, when you're using that sort of really hard kick, like it's like a EDM dance kick, you're going to be left with even less room. And so I never really felt like we had like a verse section in this beat. It either felt like we're transitioning from like an intro and then it jumped all the way up in energy. So I think the sound selection is really what sort of hurt Z-Lock's ability to make something that feels a little bit balanced. That kick in the bass sounds super over the top. Like I feel like that idea, the core idea within this beat, it feels as though it makes sense, like this part here, and just layering other more soft sounds that don't take up quite as much space around this probably would have been the strategy. But sort of using this over the top sound palette, yes, it is an easy way to get your beat to sound really full really fast, but unfortunately you're gonna have a hard time balancing your beat in a good way, just because you're either gonna be stuck with, you know, over the topness or sort of just emptiness. So yeah, that's my take on it. Synth bass was nice, says Beats from the Basement. I think it would work very well for like the hook, but if you're talking about like the rapping section, I think maybe some filtering will need to be done. Maybe reducing just how busy the drum pattern is as well, if you want to use a kick like that. Synth bass is cool, but doesn't match the keys. Yeah, aesthetically speaking, it was kind of off. I don't know if it matches it in like a hip hop way. This kind of reminded me of like some old 2010s indie folk or something. Like who the hell am I thinking of? Who did Management, MGMT? Is it pronounced Management or is it just MGMT? I don't know. Either way, I think I wouldn't go as far as saying that this felt like a hip hop beat. And for another genre, it would probably not quite work as well, just because there is no medium energy part of the beat. It's just either empty and then completely full. All right. Let's spin her up. Victor V is up next. Let me change foot position while standing. I tore my hip muscle a very long time ago, and it's only now feeling better. It's been like 3 years. So don't tear your hip muscles, guys. Right, that was Sunflower by Nicole, aka Victor. Interesting beat there. Kind of reminded me of, I mean, whenever I see that picture of Mobb Deep, it's structured in a very Mobb Deep-esque way with that sort of rolling, constant low end, but it's not like an overwhelming low end. It's just like there, sort of a driving energy with a sort of boom bap drum pattern idea. Silver says, oh my goodness, I'm going last again. You can tell everyone's on vacation by the number of submissions. I feel as though I think the sample was just a little bit too hard for a lot of people. Cool bass, nice groove. I think the keys should be pitched down or just not as bright. That's an interesting point. Love this one, Silver. Good groove you got here. Bass elements might be too boomy to my taste. The Xylo type sound really grabbed a lot of people. I've heard it in all but one project so far. Yeah, I think that is the go-to for a lot of people. It's xylophone season. The hi-hat is Shook One's thing for me. Yeah, I mean, it sounds as though the drum structure is sort of Mobb Deep-esque. I really liked what was done with this sample. I really like that sort of short pause. It goes a da-da-da-da. That's a really cool idea. I sort of like the pocket that created. It's not as if the sample's playing on the one, I believe. Yeah, so it plays just off the one. Really cool sampling idea. It's something that like I always want to do a little bit more of. Just creating really unique pockets like that. I personally enjoyed the low end. I know Croton mentioned that he wasn't a big fan of it. This kind of reminded me of Survival of the Fittest remix. It's kind of structured the same way. But in terms of the beats sort of positioning, I think a little bit more dimensionality could help. Especially like at minute 1, that sound comes in here. We have that sort of beeping that comes in. Like I think that's a really cool texture, but it could have been used to like add a lot more dimensionality. Maybe push it back into the beat a little bit more, and then just add like reverb. Then you have this really cool sort of cacophonous echoing sound. That would have been cool. And I think with the drums, the textures themselves are just, yeah, it's hard. I guess like Jay mentioned, like pitching down that main sample could have opened up the opportunity to use these really larger drums and have a lot more color on them. I do feel as though the drums feel a little bit weak. Like the hi-hat especially, it feels really, really short. So it doesn't really feel as though it's boom bap-esque, but if you did try to use like a more full hi-hat and snare and kick, something more akin to like a traditional Mobb Deep beat, you'd probably struggle to get a good balance just because of that sample. So I do think maybe manipulating that sample, pitching it down, maybe bringing it back up for the hook would have helped you build a lot more of that sort of Mobb Deep aesthetic, if that was what you're going for. So yeah, just something to think about. I really do like the drum structure though, and I like the low end. I was a fan of that low end in the beat. Intro is nice, drums go well. I didn't use a Xylo for my beat because I know it's something people would use. Oh, we'll see what Jay comes up with. But yeah, cool ideas in here. I'm curious if only Victor was in the chat right now. I would have loved to hear whether this is supposed to be like a Mobb Deep-esque beat, and if so, using more large drums could have been the play there, and just using chopped up drums as opposed to like drums from drum kits might not be the best fit for a lot of these types of beats. Grabbing an actual drum loop and then chopping it up yourself was probably going to be a better idea to get that sort of aesthetic down. We're almost done here. Joshua's up next. Maybe silver will indeed be last. Place your bets now. Let's see what Josh Meister General has for us. I love this already, says Silver. This is cool. The sound design is insane, says Eric. I love the 2010s dubstep. Makes me gonna rap, says Eric. Wild, nice use of the sample. I don't know why, but kind of getting a Conductor Williams vibe from the sample, but not the bass. Interesting flip, says Kai. Very nice. Love the atmosphere. Drums might be a little bit lacking in the low end feel. Also, maybe too much noise, says Crowtown. I think there's a white noise in the beat, and I don't think it's needed, says Jay. It's interesting how the sample got manipulated in this, but the transition was cool. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, really cool, unique ideas in here. I really loved all the textures and the manipulation done to get them to sound the way they do. Really fascinating. Yeah, just so much unique textures in here. I especially love the way it started with the just such a unique idea. I do feel as though, like you guys said, there's a few things that probably need to be adjusted. I think for one, the drums need to be much more forward. It feels as though the drums are kind of like non-present. Like the snare is sitting behind all the instrumentation. The kick feels weird. I don't know what's going on with the kick, but it feels like it's a boomy kick, but it doesn't have much punch. Like it's the frequency is like, it sounds like a kick that's almost like pitched up an octave. So that's a little bit strange. Yeah, just like you guys mentioned, there is that layer of noise in here, which is just taking up a lot of room. And like I mentioned with some of the prior beats, most of the sounds in this beat are highly sustained. We have this bass line that's constantly playing. We have these organs that are just playing these long notes. We have all these atmospheric sounds that are just constantly playing. We have this layer of noise. So I think Josh might have felt, it was very hard to get the actual drums to sort of sit more forward in the beat, because there's so many sort of long sustained sounds in here. So I do feel as though minimizing some of those long sustained sounds just to make a room and have a little bit of a better balance would probably help. I would probably get rid of that noise, just like you guys pointed out. That was a great observation. I would also say to cut some of the color off the bass, maybe bring that color in for the hook, but for the verse, or maybe just replace that bass entirely for the verse. Maybe just do something that has like a sort of like a picked guitar where it plays for a short amount and then it sort of trails off. And that's right now that bass is constantly like this part of the beat feels as if the bounce got a little bit better, but even still, I don't necessarily think it's where it needs to be to have the rapper actually cut through. So yeah, this is why I say the test of using vocals on your beat, quickly testing if the vocals are able to cut through, is very, very helpful, because it would have helped the beat. Can I turn my mic up? I believe it is. Oh, it's not on full. My bad. Oh, hello? How do I turn up the mic again? There we go. I think it's on maximum now. I'll put it closer to my mouth as well. There we go. Great catch on the white noise, Jay. You got great ear skill. That was a great observation. But yeah, I think a lot of good ideas in here. A lot of awesome, unique sounds and a lot of personality in this beat. I think just, again, thinking about structuring the beat and making sure the sounds are in their correct or their typical spot, because otherwise the beat ends up getting a little bit undermined and feels underwhelming, because there's sort of a lack of that sort of present drums to really get you feeling the energy of the beat, and it almost feels like a series of like not random, but a series of really cool, unique sounds just sitting on top of each other, but sort of lacking structure because the drums are just not present enough. So yeah, that was my take with that beat. We're almost done here. Bagad. Time flies when you're having fun. Jay is finally getting his beat heard. No xylophones in this beat. Let's see what the instrument of choice was for the Jaybird. impressive beat there, Jay. You used 4 sections from the sample to make the beat. A lot of different sounds in here. Everything was very well put together, though. One might imagine that it would be a very conflicting beat, but I don't think so. Kay, how's it going? Hopefully you're doing well. Not my normal genre, says Jay. I struggled with this assignment as well. The weird-ass sounds. Yeah, I do feel as though a lot of people probably struggled with this one. Silver is for sure going last, as he mentioned. Like the background perks. The wheel hates me. Very cool manipulation. Oh, it's evening time where Kay is at. Very interesting idea. The bending Vox thing was cool. Did you use Portal for that? Drums seem a bit too dry for my taste, but not much. Just some cohesion on the drum bus would be cool. Great use of the sample in my opinion. Great beat, well done. Yeah, I think this is my favorite beat that Jay has sent in for a few different reasons. I think it's just a great job of manipulating the samples first off, showing a lot of skill and not just being stuck with, sounds that you might not be happy with. You always have the option of manipulating the sounds within these sample challenges and bending them to your will. And I think Jay did a fantastic job of doing that. Not only that, just filling up all the spaces in a well-balanced way. Oftentimes when people want to manipulate samples, they make them a little bit more over the top. They end up like pushing it too far and the sounds end up taking way too much room. Whereas with this beat, it felt like it had a phenomenal balance. Like I knew exactly what was the verse section, what was the hook section. Yeah, like this is beautiful here. Cool background, like water drops or something. That sort of really subtle flute that comes in there. So yeah, really, really impressive. I'm really happy with all that. And the thing that I'm most happy with is that this was all one idea. I remember I challenged Jay to come up with a beat where it's not, the first half is one beat and the second half is an entirely different genre. I wanted Jay to really focus in on making a full cohesive beat using one idea and figuring out ways to keep it interesting. And I think Jay did that. At first I saw this waveform and I thought, okay, here's going to be the transition. And then we're going to get yet an entirely different beat in this section here. But this ended up just being the bridge. And then this ended up going back to the same beat idea. And everything felt as though it never got repetitive. I think you did a great job of adding sounds, removing sounds. So yeah, this is really encouraging. Great job, Jay. I'm very happy here. The 808 bass was a sample, was Make to Fun. I used Effectrix for the choir. I liked it too. I think you've been trying to calm down on the beat switches. Yeah, I think this feels as though it's a full cohesive beat, and it has enough variation in it to keep the listener engaged, but do so in a way that doesn't feel like it's like a cheap beat flip every minute and a half. So this is really, really impressive, Jay. Awesome job. I want to keep encouraging you to do this going forward. And yeah, I'm really happy with that beat. All right, so is Silver going to be last? Kai's here as well. Let's see if the present boys will be chosen last. Oh, is it going to be Silver? No. All right, so it's Kai next. Maybe Silver will be chosen next. I don't know. The wheel, she's a tempting mistress. Kai's done it again. Good job on that beat. That's a contest placer right there yet again. I'm keeping my betting money for now. I love how his image is overlapping the selector, keeps the mystery until actually shows the one selected. Oh, my bad. I even realized. Is that what's happening? Is my head in the way? Oh my god, it is. Apologies. I did remember I made my head bigger. There we go. Now you guys can see. Let me move myself over a tiny bit. Now everyone can enjoy the drama. What else was the chatters saying? It's okay, me and the wheel aren't on speaking terms. I was expecting this treatment. Damn, this is nasty, says Jay. Love the vibes. Drums have a great texture, especially the snare. Nice reverb on the sample. Another good beat. You guys are killing it. Would have liked to transition though. Great beat as expected. I'm not a fan of the snare sample. Too modern for me. I was afraid of the high pitch thing would get too repetitive, says Kai. Yeah, I really loved one small thing about this beat especially is I love the way that rhythm is created. So many small little percussive noises and also just like a layer of noise that comes in and out. You can hear that sort of white noise coming in and out. It creates a sense of rhythm. Say a really phenomenal amount of detail on such small little things like that. To me, that's what really helps make your beats sound sort of like more professional, I'll say. Just the smaller and smaller details that you're able to actually attend to once you have the core idea down. And I think Kai is showing like a lot of phenomenal progress here with this beat. Beautiful manipulation of the sample, great layering as well. Once you wanted to add a little bit more, we have this sort of organ that comes in. Yeah, I didn't feel as though it got too repetitive. Maybe like a short little reprieve from that sound and just keeping that organ like a bridge. Although you kind of did that. Well, maybe not. So yeah, maybe a short little reprieve there. But one small thing that I sort of jumped out to me is a tiny, tiny detail. But it felt as though at times the snare was a little bit... I guess inconsistent in volume. So right there, you heard the first snare is pretty loud. The second one is a little bit less loud. And I believe it's because there's a kick layered underneath or on top of it. And so when you drive both of those sounds into a mastering channel or a compressor, it's going to get squashed to the point where both the kick and the snare will sound a little bit uneven. It's not entirely a bad thing, but I would say to just be a little bit careful, maybe taking some of those really dominant snares that end up playing that don't have that kick layered, and maybe just bringing them down a little bit more so it feels a little bit more equal. You don't necessarily have to have every single drum play at the same level by any means, but I did feel as though the difference between those two snares was pretty dramatic, especially since they were playing like back to back. So yeah, there. So you can hear those snares, just a small little detail you might want to think about. Other than that though, that was a beautiful beat. I loved it. Maybe pitch bending it sometimes would be a great idea. I love the drums and the POI. To my ears, the mix could be a bit more coherent. Felt like the drums and the samples are a bit separate. Yeah, I think that is partly due to that one loud snare that comes in every once in a while. Just having one of those sounds be that dominant might be what's causing it, if I had to guess. But might be my ears being shot after 6 hours of meeting. Appreciate the detailed tips. It's actually an electric guitar, EQ to hell. Oh. Wow. Yeah, it sounds like an organ down there. That makes sense. There's one layer that is different in the pattern. Yeah, so that's just like a small detail. Nonetheless though, like you're doing all the big things really, really well. And it's really encouraging to see you're starting to address the smaller details on your beat. It's impressive how much progress you're able to make. Really awesome. All right. Will Silver get chosen? Let's find out. Oh! Ooh! It happened again. Poor guy. Focus Beats is up next. Here we go. Apologies to Silver. You will get chosen, don't worry. One day. That was an awesome beat. Ooh, like that effect. Really interesting idea for that beat. Love the hard drums, love the atmosphere. This was my favorite so far. That's cool. I think you sampled the same part I did. I like the vibe, but I think there could be a little bit more movement to this beat. Feels like one long verse, not enough difference in the chorus to change the energy a little. Interesting. I agree on the movement part by Kai. I think the chops could be switched up a little bit more. Did he use the potato flute? Crowtown, see you later. The baby's going mad. Fair enough. The drums and bass are cool. Love how the xylophone was used. Echo reverb, the beat knocks, and the bass is nice. The Vox muffling was great too. Yeah, I feel as though I love the core idea in this beat. Great placement of sounds. It felt as though this beat could have been like overwhelming and too full, but I think just the way the sounds were positioned were great. I love the patterns for the bass and the drums as well. So yeah, the big stuff, again, really in place. I really love this beat. I think it's phenomenal. We'll go into some of the smaller details that I picked out. One thing that you just heard there that I think could be helped is that there's a little bit of a sort of loss of frequency as we go from one idea to the next. So with this idea that we're in right now, you can hear there's like a high-end rattle or like a almost like a percussive element on top. But then when you get to this part here, that frequency pocket becomes missing. So what I probably would have done would, I'm a big believer in making sure that, relatively speaking, as you go from different section to different section, you don't want an entire frequency pocket to be missing, especially when it happens right after another, because it sort of becomes obvious and it feels as though the two ideas become a tiny bit detached. So what I probably would have done was to just take this original loop here. And you can just like EQ, filter everything out but that high end rattle, and then just continue playing just that high end if it's not existent in the other sample that you're using, and then just continue to use that during this part. And so you have a little bit more of an equal idea. So here he does a little bit there. I think just having that sound play a little bit more frequently, especially during that part, would be a good idea. Another thing is that with the kicks, you can hear there's two different kicks being used, one that has a lot more color, one that has less. I think I probably would have used the one that has less color a little bit more frequently, because we have like colorful kick, colorful kick, colorful kick, and then a little bit later we have sort of more transparent kick. Having those three kicks play at the exact same level 3 times in a row, it kind of feels a little bit robotic. Whereas using a little bit less of a transparent kick, it doesn't become as obvious, and just doing small things like playing around with the velocity as well. So you can hear right there. I think just changing some of the characteristics of those kicks could have been a small detail that could have helped the beat as well. So those are some of the small details that jumped out to me. In terms of, like I mentioned, the core idea in this beat, phenomenal. I really loved it. It's doing all the important things really well. I can see a rapper using this as well. To what Jay mentioned, it didn't feel as though this had an obvious verse section. An obvious hook section, which is probably a valid point. This to me felt like one of those beats where a rapper just raps for like 2.5 minutes. I do feel as though Focus in the past has built more structured, typical beat ideas. So it's not necessarily a concern for me. But hey, maybe if Focus does have trouble with that, that's something that is a good idea to practice. All right, so get your bets in, everyone. Will he get it done? Will he not? Is Silver going to be chosen? It's a 50-50 gamble. You guys let me know. Is he going to win? Is he not? We're about to spin. Here we go. I believe in you, Silver. There we go. Look at that. The wheel loves him again. Congratulations to Silver on this beautiful beat here being chosen. That's Silver's unusual beat, as he mentioned in the chat. Unfinished idea, too lazy to finish it. Whoops. There's no bass line because I was too lazy. Love the percussion. I think it's 4 sounds in the video. I see. Very well done coming up with this rhythm, and superior drummer for kick and snares. Sounds like a JID kind of beat. Percussion's on point. Kick should slap a bit more, missing, and since it's missing the bass. Interesting point. Love the rhythm of the drums. It feels a bit flat though. Did you high cut it? I rendered every track through my ASR 10. It sounds good without a bass line in my opinion. Yeah, I felt as though the beat, if there wasn't going to be a bass line, I do feel as though some melodic element would have been nice. This beat's primarily rhythmic elements, and the beat is mostly filled up with these sort of crashing sounds and these sort of percussive ideas. I just felt as though the beat didn't have too much of a POI. I guess that main sound there is what I'm supposed to be focusing on, but it doesn't feel as though it's doing enough. That is an interesting idea of everything feeling as though it's a bit flat, and maybe it is because you run it through the ASR. It's adding some sort of bit crushing to every element in the beat, and so there's nothing that has sort of atmosphere or depth to it, because everything sort of, once you add high frequencies onto every sound, it sort of pulls everything forward. And so to have some sound in your beat that doesn't have that effect, or maybe has a more of aggressive cut to add depth. Yeah, I just feel as though a little bit more of a melodic idea somewhere in there that could have been achieved through the bass line, or something else would have been nice. But as of right now, it just kind of feels like a series of rhythmic notes that didn't really evoke a sort of strong feeling in me. A flute or bass would be nice, and we're back to potato flute full circle. If no bass, do a deeper and bigger kick. Yeah, it darkens everything. So yeah, I think just a little bit more ideas in this beat to help. You provided the rhythm in this beat. I think just a little bit more for the actual melodic elements, even if it's something that's not very melodic. Maybe it's just like a similar note playing over and over again. Just something that just fills up the beat a little bit more, because it did feel as though it needs something else. But like you mentioned, you felt like you were too lazy to finish it, so perhaps that is why. Look at this buff guy. Holy smokes. Elephant Man. Here we go. was Elephant Man by T-Roy. Good job of creating a full, consistent beat there. I think in the past, T-Roy sort of struggled with the same thing that Jay, you mentioned, in that he'd build like multiple ideas in one. I think this is one full idea. And I think T-Roy did a great job of just creating enough switch ups where it didn't feel as though it was the exact same thing over and over again. The dude looks like David Banner on steroids. Man rides an elephant instead of a horse. I like how he chopped up the sample. Interesting take on it. I like what he took for the sample. Elements fit well together. The beat was nice. I feel as though the kick of the bass is a bit too hot. Great sounding choice. Great sound choice though. I like the beat. Just didgeridoo didn't work for me in this beat. Feels out of place. I think the 808 isn't necessarily in the mix though. A beat either too loud or saturated. Yeah, so I feel as though I like the pockets that were created with the 808, just the structuring of the beat. The rhythm was really unique, strong idea underlying. I think just as you guys mentioned, this sort of additional layer of details on top, some of them felt out of key. I think it's the horn that sits on top of the 808. That one there. I think that might be out of key. I don't know if it's the 808. Yeah, I think that sound needs to be adjusted. But you guys could be right. It might be the 808, the didgeridoo. I'm not sure if that is a didgeridoo. Is that the didgeridoo? I don't know. But that one sound in there did feel as though it wasn't playing the right note. Yeah, I had to fine tune all the sounds I used. Yeah, I think with a sample like this, you especially need to make sure you get the right notes in place and you're using the correct ones. Which is exactly what my new plugin will be able to help you do, which is going to be coming out very soon. But yeah, that is my take with this beat. Really encouraging to see that T-Roy is able to keep the bounds of his beat into like one idea, and he's able to create something full and unique, and still have it be interesting. I think the core idea in this beat is really, really good. I think just that one layer of sounds in this beat kind of undermined it, but just a simple adjustment of changing the pitch of it, I think will have this beat ready to go. So this is really awesome. Hopefully you guys had fun with this sample. I promise we'll do something a little bit more straightforward next time. I had to fine tune. Yeah. We'll probably do a normal vocal sample challenge for next time. And for next week, the Q&A, I'll probably push it to be later in the day. We'll see if more people show up. If not, then we'll probably just replace them with another feedback session. Outside of that, Beats from the Basement does a great job. Hope you all submit the next one. I hope so too. Maybe summer's over now. We'll get back to beat making. Other than that though, guys, hopefully you have a good one. And I'll talk to you soon.